And now, without further ado, Zico Coulter, Head of Machine Learning Department at Carnegie Mellon University and OpenAI board member.
All right. Thank you, Senator, for those wonderful remarks, first of all. Oops. I'm here to talk today I was asked to talk about turning research into real-world impact. So as Jenna mentioned, I'm the head of the machine learning department at Carnegie Mellon. I also have a number of industry roles as well. And when it comes down to it, thinking about this question, I feel like this is kind of a softball. It's a pretty easy task I was given, actually. And the reason why is that it is actually impossible for me to imagine a field where basic research turns into world-changing application as rapidly as an AI. There is no other area I have ever heard of where papers, academic papers, can become companies 2 years after this. And so to start off with, I want to reflect on that. I want to reflect on just how much and how fundamentally the research that happens at universities like Carnegie Mellon, like Pitt, like other universities around here, and in fact, not just like those universities, but at those universities, has changed the world over these past 15 years. Let's start by going back to 2007. Carnegie Mellon won the DARPA Urban Challenge with a vehicle called BOSS. Now, this actually was not by any means the start of autonomous vehicle work. This goes back many more years, of course. In the 80s, Carnegie Mellon was working on vehicles as well. But this was still basic research, I think, in 2007. We would classify it as such. And now these days, that same group, in fact, a lot of the same people working out there on that team at CMU, went on to found and then lead Waymo, which is now driving around SF. I don't know if people here have ridden in Waymos before. It's incredible. This is not the future anymore. This is happening right now. Another example. Little-known paper was published in 2012 with the long title, ImageNet Classification with Deep Convolutional Networks. These guys weren't at CMU, I admit, but Jeff Hinton was here at CMU for a time too, so of course, like with all things, there's a CMU connection. Again, I'm not here trying to litigate the past and the history of deep learning. That's a very fraught topic, we'll say. But this paper galvanized interest in deep learning across the industry. And 10 years later, we are all basically using deep learning pretty much every day. At least I certainly use deep learning every day with tools like ChatGPT and others. But it's not just, these are still old examples of basic research. This was basic research 10 years ago. Maybe that's still a little bit, that's a time frame that's still crazy as far as engineering goes, but maybe more suitable. But this has not stopped. We keep having these things. And again, I'm going to put up a selective group here. It's not meant to represent anyone. A few years ago, I saw that my colleagues in the robotics department published a few really cool papers about robots that could do extreme parkour and things like that. And now you have Skilled, one of the fastest growing companies in Pittsburgh, and they're going to actually be here later on today. And then maybe a little bit more selfishly, I will admit here, I have to hype up myself a little bit, A few years ago, some colleagues and I had a paper on circumventing guardrails of chatbots, basically tricking them into doing things that they are not supposed to be able to do. The team of us since founded Gray Swan AI, and these days we have products that are able to, much more reliably than we ever thought possible, secure AI agent systems so that they can be deployed and follow developer policies. So hopefully, this is, to many of you, evidence of the incredibly short timescale in AI that I really think defies all other fields that I have ever seen and ever heard of. The speed of development here is unlike anything else. But this does raise the question. If that was this in the previous slide were 10 years ago or a few years ago, what is the future going to hold? What are the next innovations? They're going to lead us into the future that we're all living right now, or that we will be living in 5, 10 years. And here I think there actually is a bit of subtlety. Because it would be easy to say, as researchers, that we should keep doing exactly what we're doing as the AI landscape changes ahead of us. Right? I mean, after all, we've been quite successful in these things. Let's keep doing basic AI research. But I think that that perspective does not quite do justice to just how transformational this technology has been over the past 5 years. It's gone from a setting where, yes, it was an academic field, there were companies doing it, lots of progress, to a point where now I don't go a single day without using AI in some way, and that's not just true for me, it's true for the hundreds of millions of daily users of AI tools. And I think it would be silly to say, academia should continue just as it was. And I don't want to advocate for that, because I think we do need, as academics, to adjust our perspectives and adjust to the fact that actually industry is driving forward now a large chunk of AI. But the part that I want to leave you with, and maybe I will finish on this before we convene to the panel, is that we are not done yet. And what I mean by that is there is more basic research to be done in AI, and this research will lead the next 10 years of progress in the field. In conjunction, in partnership, with industry pushing this forward, but there is basic research to be done. I think it is different than past research, but I think it's no less important. So I want to end now by just some thoughts about my own take on what this could be. And like the field, this changes every few months. So you're getting a snapshot of what I think right now, and maybe in 2 months from now, I'll be on a completely different page, but come talk to me 2 months from now then. What do I think right now are the areas of AI research that are most critical for academics to focus on, which will shape what we see affecting us all in 10 years? Number one, reliability of AI systems. This might seem like, and it probably is the most near-term thing and the most industry-centric item, but the reality is the AI tools that we use every day are not reliable the way, say, planes are reliable. There's this expression in engineering of some number of nines of reliability, right? 5 nines, 8 nines of reliability. You want a plane you get on to have a whole lot of nines of reliability, i.e. everything works 99.9999999% of the time. AI is not that right now. It works a lot amazingly well, but it still makes mistakes. How do we get to the point where we can have 5 nines of reliability in AI systems? I think that's more than just a challenge of implementation. I think that is a fundamental research question that we need to press forward from an academic standpoint. But then maybe a little bit broader, let's talk about AI for science. I know that's a very generic term, but it's still used, and I will use it. Now that AI is where it is, let's leverage these tools to not just do better AI research, but to actually further the human endeavor of science. This has been, after all, one of our core drivers of progress throughout humanity. Let's take this new powerful tool we have, even just as a tool, and turn it toward the most important problems in health, in energy, and across the board. Understand aspects of the world. In fact, if I can digress a little bit, this is exactly kind of the scoping and point of the new RK Mellon building that we're putting up at Carnegie Mellon. And finally, I am in fact an educator at heart. I'm in fact a professor. What are we going to do about education? What do we do in a world where basically every question we have asked students to solve in an undergrad program can now be solved by AI? It doesn't mean AI can do everything humans can do yet. Give it a few more years. But it does mean we need to rethink education fundamentally. Not just in terms of differing evaluations, which, by the way, I do think are part of this solution, but also in terms of really rethinking how we can leverage AI tools to better personalize and to better guide educators to address not just the students at Carnegie Mellon, but the students at every level, at every university, and in K through 12 as well. Now, we are working on all of these things at Carnegie Mellon. They're just a few things. So, to conclude before I have my panel come up, I would just say, if you're interested in the future of what is coming in AI, by all means, do stop by our offices here. We're right down the road. And some of the most exciting, impactful work, which will be the things you look back on 10 years from now, are happening literally right next door. Thanks very much. With that, I will invite my panel up. Allison and Andrew, welcome to come on up. Thanks very much. All right. Where do you want to sit?
I'm going to go there.
Okay.
We'll switch around.
Thanks.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you both for being here. And we're going to spend the next 25, 30 minutes trying to sort of cut through some of the noise and the hype to get to the core strategic issues for all the leaders in this room. No pressure. Nothing's riding on it. But to start, I wanted to ask, maybe to ground the conversation a little bit, to ask each of you, beyond the sort of high-profile generative AI tools that we all work with and see, where is AI creating the most significant sort of under-the-radar impact? You want to start?
Sure. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the chance to be here. I'm Andrew Moore, CEO of Lovelace AI, who works in this building, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing later. First, let me thank Zico for his really strong comments, and I want to make a point of the success of Pittsburgh as an AI center. One of the metrics is that Zico is still here. He's exactly the right person to sort of center the kind of pragmatic, honest, thoughtful approach to artificial intelligence that this city needs. I remember when we managed to recruit him into Pittsburgh in the prehistory of AI, like 10 years ago, and so much celebration. We saw so much potential, but now he's here. If we screw up in Pittsburgh, one way we'll see is that Zika will no longer be here with us. I also want to take the opportunity to once again thank President Farnham Jahanian from Carnegie Mellon University for the incredible effort he's put in the last 10 years to make sure that we are, as a community, so far ahead of our peer cities in artificial intelligence. So that's my brief introduction. Thank you. Now, in answer to your question, there's a very important issue underlining what's happening in artificial intelligence at the moment. Many people in this room are thinking to themselves, what do I do about AI? How does it affect me? How does it affect my career or my industry? And the place I'd love us to spend a little bit of time on this committee is just trying to, on this panel, is just trying to answer the question, what do we want to happen? So I think many people here are anxious. And certainly for many people here, there's a fear of missing out. And so let's ask the question, how would we like to see things play out? And the answer comes down to artificial intelligence being actually used to improve each area of society that is well represented by what happens in Pittsburgh. How do we, instead of just firing lots of people, make it so that folks in the medical industry, the banking industry, in national security and defense are all able to do their jobs more effectively? When you look at how we go from the amazing work coming out of the universities and the frontier labs, how we answer those questions, my belief is that we have to realize that there is a grind going on. What I mean by grind, that's a term from video games. Video games, you can have splashes of intense excitement, but to really get into a good position in the video game, sometimes you need to be doing hard work. It is not the case that in the world of artificial intelligence right now, you can build these kind of impressive systems you're seeing without hard work. And so within each discipline, and the examples of some of the AI unicorns that we're going to see later on in this two-day event show that each of these comes with a lot of engineering work to make the systems work properly. So let's take, as a great example, you're talking about, Joanna was talking about the draft coming to Pittsburgh. The fact is that now you can kind of half guess how AI might be able to be used, but I want to be much more pointed about how we can actually use this kind of technology. Thanks to work primarily from Carnegie Mellon, we're now very good at being able to observe the movements of objects, including every joint in every limb of every player over their entire careers, and really deeply sense what they're doing, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, where the potentials are. The grind part of this is we take that data and we start to use it for models to predict things like where training is going to help, where the next strong piece of potential is going to help, where the most vulnerable places are for injuries in our own teams or in other teams and so forth. So to do that, notice how it's not just a question of asking ChatGPT to do it for you. It is much harder work than that, because we've got to have expert engineers getting hold of the existing technology that tracks all the positions of every limb in our body, and then build the models which allow us to predict what is going to be successful or not.
I want to jump in right there, just sorry for a second, and pick up on a sort of thread that I think you're getting at, and then maybe Zico, this is a question for you too. What's sort of, I guess, the biggest misconception that you think people have about either where we're at or where we're headed? You were speaking about the real research, but maybe Zico, do you want to take that?
Andrew, you can actually, all right, wasn't sure which microphone will be on. Is it on?
It'll be on.
Okay, great. Okay, so I should start off by saying that it's a very common theme when you ask an academic about what the biggest misconceptions of AI is, to say, oh, the biggest misconception is these systems aren't really intelligent and they aren't going as fast as you think they are, and we've been doing these things for a long time and they have all these problems, et cetera, et cetera. And in my view, that just misses the obvious truth we all see, which is that, one, systems as we see them, and I mean generative AI systems, so I do mean ChatGPT now, are incredibly powerful, absurdly intelligent by any reasonable definition, with holes, yes, of course, but extremely intelligent, and getting better extremely quickly. So I do want to leave people a little bit of unease. Andrew's trying to calm the unease. I want to leave people a little bit of unease because there are a lot of questions about where this is going, about what is the future, what's coming here. And to be clear, it's absolutely true that models like ChatGPT, these general purpose models, are not built for everything. And so yes, if you wanted to do computer vision to identify limbs in a player, you wouldn't use ChatGPT. The question is, in 5 years, would you just have ChatGPT write the code to do that for you? And the answer, I think, is maybe. Or probably, actually, in 5 years. It's a long time. So I think, actually, in a lot of ways, yes, there are overblown claims. Yes, there is hype around this. But I actually think there's also a real danger in underselling, as experts in the field, the immense power and the generality of these systems. And there really is this amazing potential to transform virtually every area of work through generative AI. And the best thing we can do is embrace that, in my view. I do think I agree with Andrew that it's not going to put everyone out of work. I think the companies that succeed best will not be the ones that say, hey, we can do everything we used to do, and let's get rid of all our employees. The ones that succeed are going to be the ones that say, hey, what can we do now that we never dreamed of being possible before? But I do think massive change is coming, and I think it's coming relatively quickly.
So I want to ask you both this because you both hold positions in academia. You're affiliated with big tech companies. You're both involved in startups. What, I guess, from your perspective, what's industry not getting right, and what is academia not getting right? Sorry to be so negative, but you want to go for that one?
Sure. Yeah. The main thing I want to see in industry are very rapid attempts to actually bring artificial intelligence in a useful way to the end users and to the operators. So I will give the AI industry, much as Zika would do, a huge positive score, having done a fantastic job of coming up with this core technology, which we all use every day. What we are not so good about as an industry is what I would call the product management of how we take the ability for these models to come up with very quick and accurate inferences and use them to make someone's job more purposeful and useful. So let me give you some examples of this. My company has been engaged by various parts of US and Western defense organizations to understand over very large regions of the globe if something dangerous is happening. And the people who do that kind of work, folks with names like intelligence analysts or geo-targeters, they have met ChatGPT and many tools like that and tried to use them in their own roles. And they are seeing huge benefits of perhaps every day not having to spend an extra hour on perfectly formatting a PowerPoint result or having to rephrase or re-summarize information. But that's only like a 10, 20, 30% improvement. What I want to see product manager-oriented companies doing at the moment is working with those end users, always with the question, how do we make them 10 times more effective so that they can do 10 times as much work? And if we're dealing with something with public safety, I'm perfectly happy to not fire anyone, just let them all carry on doing their work 10 times more powerfully. In this particular case, what we're able to accomplish for these customers is, in a world where they really do have to be watching out for serious dangers by very dangerous organizations and people, we were able to approximately by a factor of 3, increase their detection of very malign physical threats. That is what I recall a big success, because it's not just we've made your life slightly easier and you don't have to use Google to get results, you use ChatGPT, but we've integrated AI into your work so that you are now doing much more than you were able to do before.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
So let me talk about what academia is getting wrong. Since you eloquently stated what industry is getting wrong, let me talk about what academia is getting wrong. And I think about this a lot, actually, because as a faculty member, I see the reaction in a lot of other faculty members to AI, and oftentimes it's not quite as awestruck as I am, and I kind of wonder why. And I think that fundamentally, the benefit and the downside of academia is the contrarian nature of it to a certain degree. And by the way, for any faculty members who may be here, if you think AI is a bunch of BS, more power to you. Please keep pursuing that vision as an academic. That's what you should be doing. But on the flip side, if you survey the average faculty member at Carnegie Mellon, or I shouldn't stick out Carnegie Mellon here because we're actually quite advanced when it comes to this, but if you survey average faculty members kind of across industry and ask them, or sorry, across the country, and ask them how long they think it's going to be until we have extremely general purpose, essentially human level capabilities in AI systems, they'll say, well, 50 years, 100 years, maybe 20 years if they're really optimistic, right? If you ask people at OpenAI the same question, they'll say, 3-4 years maybe. It's a little bit sad to me that the crazy dreamers seem to be more in industry now than in academics. And I think we should have all types in academia, to be clear. But I also want to have more people who believe the robot apocalypse is coming in academia. We should have that voice, because it's a real voice. And I think they have reasonable arguments. And somehow that mindset, I think, right now has less of a home in academic research than it has, oddly enough, in an incredibly fast-growing industry player in AI.
Why does it matter that it's not there? What's the consequence of that?
So it's a great question. In 1965, I use this quote a lot. So I think I maybe even said this last year, so forgive me if you were here last year. I use this a lot. In 1965, Herb Simon, one of the godfathers of AI at Carnegie Mellon, he's saying this in 1965, says, in 20 years, AI will be able to do anything a person can do. And he was wrong. He got this wrong. And since then, there has been a deep skepticism about the progress in the field. And that's become kind of embedded in the field itself. And as much as we have made progress in the field that I showed, right? I mean, that came out of academia. I think that mindset of conservatism holds us back. I would actually rather be Herb Simon in 1965 and get it wrong, but have that as a mindset, as a target, as a goal about how I want to innovate and shape the world. And I think that spirit should be present, to be clear, everywhere, but in academia and in industry.
Can I push a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was promised disagreement. So.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So for me, I definitely do not sympathize with someone who just says AI is a fad. Clearly that's wrong. It's already had this multi-hundred billion impact on the economy. I do strongly believe that we don't get to sit back and see AI doing good things for us for free. We, people in this room, need to get expertise in the area and design businesses around it, and not just assume that typing something into a prompt is going to get us a new business for free. However, so on one side, absolutely agree. it is true that I can probably say this because I don't have the academic job that Zico has right now. I think there is a lot of threat and in the hearts of academics and other folks in established positions that a lot of their life's work is becoming rapidly changed and their positions are imperiled. And I think many people in this room probably do feel that as well. There's a slight crabbiness about AI and all these promises because it is kind of saying maybe us and our expertise aren't useful. So I do believe people are irrationally claiming it's not going to work well. But from the point of view of what people in this room should be doing right now in Pittsburgh, we have to look at the reality of we have got a set of extraordinary technology tools that we can build systems on. We could wait for 3, 6, 9 years for AI to become so powerful that we don't have to do the grind. We could do that, but none of us know whether this incredible level of AI autonomous performance and superhuman behavior is 3 years around the corner. I would say there's a 10% chance it's 3 years around the corner, but I'd say there's a 50% chance that it's more than 10 years around the corner. We got to work now. So us, and especially folks not like us Pittsburghers, but hypey West Coasters who give big talks where every talk begins with the word, we are on the precipice of, we are on the brink of, we are on the cusp of. There's a lot of money behind them needing to make those statements. And the rest of industry, including people in the military and in important parts in banks who have to make decisions right now that affect our lives, who need to be told that at the moment, right now, AI can't do everything you need, and we need to do some engineering to bring it to actually be useful to you, while also giving them the message that we're not promising that this is going to be true in 3 or 4 years. It may be that we rapidly overtake ourselves in what we're working on at the moment. So that's the message is it might be incredible in 3, 6, 9 years, but that doesn't mean to say we sit back. And I know that you're not implying this. We sit back and relax until the frontier labs have come up with the ultimate AI.
We have just a handful of minutes left, and I want to get to 2 questions. We talked a lot about industry, talked a lot about academia. What are the nuances that policymakers need to be aware of or are sort of missing? Real quick.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. There is a huge misperception at the moment, and again, I would defer to Zico on this, but the misperception is that somehow by putting humans in the loop, we can make AI safe. That is nowhere near enough, and yet over and over again, I hear people in military commands, folks responsible for massive risk operations in banks saying, yeah, well, do whatever you want, but make sure there's a human in the loop. That idea that a human in the loop keeps AI safe is a complete myth. If I want to, I wouldn't do this. If I wanted to persuade a commander to do a strike, I could ask an AI system to give all the positive evidence, no lying, just giving the positive evidence, and it would be very persuasive. US commanders are so smart, they might see through it. If I wanted him or her not to do the strike, I could ask an AI to give that information. Either way, there's a human in the loop. If they're getting presented with misleading information either way, that human in the loop is not enough safety.
Good.
I would emphasize a slightly different point here. I think that there's actually another danger of regulation of AI, which is that we treat current AI systems essentially in the exact same way we treated AI systems 10 years ago, as, for lack of a better word, kind of glorified regression predictions, and ignore 2 basic facts. Fact number 1 is these systems just fundamentally are too large to understand in terms of their mathematical underlying operations. Yes, you can make progress in kind of elucidating some of the understanding of them, but that's not going to get you, not the way that we want, that we think about engineering systems. Frankly speaking, from a policy standpoint, I think we need to think about these things not in the same way, but more like we think about people. I trust you in many cases, not every case, but some cases, to make good decisions. I don't do it because I understand the neural pathways in your brain and can map those out and say, well, he said this because there was this neuron that fired, and therefore, yeah, it's trustworthy. No. Trust is an empirical thing, fundamentally. And safety also. Yes, you can build in some limited settings, understanding physical constraints especially, to sort of guarantee aspects of it, but it's still an empirical science, fundamentally. And our judgment and evaluation of AI needs to fundamentally rest on empirical grounds, not on first principle understanding of the models behind the predictions. The models are almost irrelevant. What matters is the empirical performance that we actually see. We need to measure that, we need to assess it, and that's how we gain trustworthiness over AI.
Final question, real quick. I'm going to ask you to make a prediction, so fill in the blank. In 2026, AI will... You want to go first?
AI will improve the human condition.
Next year?
Yeah.
Wow, that's bold.
Isn't it already improving the human condition, I would argue? So that's an easy one, right? The thing I preface predictions with is that there is lots of historical evidence showing that I am bad at predictions. So I'm not just saying this, there's evidence behind it. I've made predictions, people ask me this every year, I'm always wrong. Not always, but sometimes. Let's talk concrete things about what AI is going to be doing next year. I think we have long-form, basically interactive developers that are doing a lot of the things that we currently do still with programmers. We're already here, arguably, but I think it's going to get so much better over the next year that by the end of the next year, programming, with a big caveat here, if you are willing to adopt the latest technologies, which is oftentimes not the case at a lot of large industry, but should be the case more, if you adopt this, you will be able to essentially change the entire nature of your software development team. Not fire them, but change the entire set of capabilities that you ever thought was possible for the team that you have. And that is going to be one of the biggest enablers when it comes to and again, it's already happening, but that will be, over the next year, one of the biggest enablers that we see done with AI systems.
Please join me in thanking our panel. Andrew, Zico, thank you so much. And I'm going to turn the stage back over.